So, gentlemen, we'll let you make your statements, and then we'll have Tuffy take over from there.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kevin Crowan, and I'm running for my third term as Alderman, the First Ward, unopposed. This is the second time I'm running unopposed. I'm 63 years old, married 40 years, have 2 children and 1 granddaughter. Been living here in Wilmington for over 12 years. I'm looking forward to taking on the continued challenges of an elected city official. I'm dedicated to trying to make the right decisions, not only for the First Ward residents, but also the taxpayers of the city of Wilmington. My main concerns are to have a balanced budget, which our accountant is great with the books, and taking care of what materials our departments need to keep our residents safe. Our first responders are top-notch, and our public works and water departments get the job done. I won't be fielding any questions, but because we have all these incumbents that are here, and I appreciate your time. So without taking any more time up, good luck to all of you. Thank you to voters of the First Ward for allowing me to represent you for the next 4 years.
Thank you, Kevin. Nick?
I'm Jake Tan. I am a lifelong resident of Wilmington, 39 years. I have 2 small children, amazing life. And I'm looking out for the best for the city. I'm one of the co-founders of the Community Foundation with Ben Dietz and Chad Kavanaugh, who you listen to for the park board. I didn't come prepared like Kevin, I'm sorry. But all I can tell you is that's basically it. So, I appreciate your support.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. You guys can go sit down. We'll get this started. Okay, Floyd, we're going to have every one of you give your statements, and we'll just go right down the line, okay?
My name is Floyd Combs. I've been living in Wilmington for 30 years. 9 of the kids of my 12 have gone through the high school system. I got 22 grandkids. I've been involved with the Bobcats, the WBSA. I've been involved with the Mighty Cats. I've been involved with the Masons. Actually, I'm a coach at the high school softball and middle school. I've been coaching for the last 30 years that I've been here. A lot of the people here, like Jake, I coached him, Ben, a few others. I'm a servant of the ward to help make their lives better along with mine. And I hope to get reelected. This is my second term, second time sitting on the council. I sat on it 10 years ago. And I hope it continues. We're going in a good direction, and thank you.
Fran Tudor, currently 3rd Ward Alderman. I'm running for my 3rd term. I've been an alderman for 8 years. Prior to that was city clerk for 2 years. I've lived in Wilmington for 34 years. My husband, much longer than that. All of our children have been raised in the Wilmington system. You know, I enjoy being an alderman. I enjoy working with the people of the ward and of the city. Getting involved in a lot of voluntary activities. My daughter actually had Floyd as a coach for many, many years. But just appreciate the support.
Hello, my name's Ben Dietz, and I'm running for the 3rd Ward as well. I've lived in the 3rd Ward for 12 years, and while I'm not originally from Wilmington, my wife Jessica and my 3 sons are. I did grow up in a small town though, so I love a lot of the things that Wilmington has to offer. I love, that my kids get to go out and play and feel safe and secure, that my neighbors are taking care of them and watching over them just like I would to their kids. And I've worked with some of my neighbors to start that community foundation to help rebuild the parks that I think we can all agree need some very good TLC. Very happy that hopefully very soon we'll be delivering one of the first big upgrades to Memorial Park, but we still got a lot of work to do there. I do want to work with the city to make sure that we can open up those communication channels that most of the park member boards reflected on. We do need to get over whatever the bias is between the different departments and groups and the community support people that are there, and actually start making a government that wants to work for the city with the city's best interest in mind. That was some of the feedback I got. I knocked on 550 plus doors in my ward and got the opportunity to talk to about 75 people, and a lot of the common themes, like they want the government to work for them, and they feel like there's a lot of services that they're not getting, and I really want to help do my part to help the city and specifically help us all get better.
Dennis?
My name is Dennis Weiss. I was appointed second ward alderman a year ago in January to take over the seat from Larry Hall, who had stepped down, and appointed by Mayor Strong last January, and have learned a lot in a short period of time. I enjoy serving the community. I think everybody up here, nobody is going to tell you they want to do a bad job in working for the community. I enjoy the time. We have a good board, good council right now working very well together. I grew up here, went to school here, played Little League, high school, sports, graduated from here. Was gone for a number of years, lived in Manuka. My daughters are 20 and 18 currently and still reside in Manuka. And I moved back about 11 years ago. I wanted to come back home. We have a lot of work to do as a council, as a city. We have a lot of projects to work on. We have some major infrastructure issues that we've started getting and digging into, as far as water main, sewer main issues in the old part of town, Kankakee Street, Water Street, Main Street, in the old part of town are getting real old, and there's a lot of issues with storm drain. Our rainwater is currently running into the sewer. Instead of going to the storm sewer, some of it is going into the water and going to the water treatment plant, and we're paying money to treat rainwater that should be going to the river, and it's all part of the renovations and the fixing of those 3 streets in the old part of town that will take care of that problem. I have the time to put to serve to the second ward in the city of Wilmington. I thoroughly enjoy the job right now, and I hope to continue to do so.
Thank you, Dennis. Isaac?
I'm Isaac Orr. I've lived here my entire life, born and raised here. I attended Wilmington High School. I graduated the class of 2015. I graduated a semester early to kind of get a head start at JJC. Right now I attend Governor State University. I'm working on my economics degree. Got a few more classes to go before I graduate. And that's kind of what I want to use to help benefit the city, is use my knowledge of economics and finance and marketing in order to help the city and help it grow and make sure that our money is invested efficiently and effectively. Some of the things that have happened recently I don't think that have been in the best interest of the city and its residents. I think that with my background and what I know, I think I could play a huge factor in helping that. Some of the things I've done around the city, I'm still pretty young, so I'm still new at helping out and everything, but over this last year, I helped the Wilmington High School Scholastic Bowl team since I was a member of that team for 3 years. A lot of what I do is active with the Masons. I try to make it when I don't have classes, and joining the Shriners and the Tall Cedars and helping out with causes like that, and traveling all across the state helping out. And I've had a lot of enjoyment doing it, and I hope to definitely help the city and work with the council and make the city a better place to live.
Okay, thank you, Isaac. All right, we'll get started here. Got a nice little stack here. Okay. Aldermen need to be more proactive towards Wilmington's future and lackluster growth. What would you say to that statement? Floyd, we'll start with you.
More involved with the growth.
It says they need to be more proactive towards Wilmington's future and lackluster growth. What would you say to that statement?
What was that?
I-
I don't understand the question.
Yeah.
Well, I think what they're
I
asking.
mean, the growth is already happening with Bridgeport over there on the other side of town,
Right.
with 150 operation on Arsenal Road. The
Right.
growth is happening all the time. The lackluster, I mean, I don't understand what we're not, I mean,
Okay.
And I will say, those developments have with Bridgeport and Local 150, but at a time when the housing market or real estate was in a downturn, there was not a lot of homes being built. So as a city, we were giving first-time, the builders incentives to build homes. We have had some new homes built. There's some being built down off Kankakee Street. So in that part of it, the city has made steps in trying to give incentives to homeowners who are willing to build. So that is still in place. It is budgeted for it in order to help with that. But
Anything to add on that, Dennis?
As Fran was saying, there is what was currently set up out there is talking about tap-on fees for new builders. The city right now is waiving tap-on fees for anybody that comes in and builds new houses. There are currently a handful of available. We just, because some of those were taken, we threw some more in to help take care of the cost of first-time or home builders. There are some people in town that you kind of get the vibes that they don't want the town to grow much bigger than it really is. But in order for more tax dollars to drive town, it's tax dollars, it's property tax and sales tax dollars that run the town, and we need more houses to generate more property tax. We need more people in town shopping Water Street to generate more sales tax. Nellie's has a new microbrewery going in that's going to be opening in within a couple of months. It's going to generate more tax dollars. It's going to attract people from out of town. It's going to keep people in town that are in town antiquing. It's going to, during Catfish Days, it's going to help out. So again, it's tax dollars and it's real estate taxes that drive the economic engine.
Okay. Ben, you got anything to add to this?
I would, because myself personally, we purchased our second new house like a year and a half ago. And prior to that, we had been looking actively for 6 or 7 years to stay within Wilmington. We successfully sold our house 4 times, and 4 times we had to back out of it because we couldn't find anywhere to live. Wilmington's very hard to find land. It's even harder to build, and it's almost impossible to find a builder that wants to work with Wilmington. And I can tell you from my personal experience, it's kind of a nightmare when you want to stay in your community, and they make it very hard for you to do that. So I think that's one of the huge challenges is not only, the tap-on fees is a huge factor of it for sure, but actually going out and marketing ourselves to some builders to make ourselves more attractive. And not just single family, but also apartments and, more of an equal housing approach than just single family homes.
Okay. Isaac?
Yeah, I don't think the city's working hard enough for growth at all. I mean, we haven't had any real commercial growth. We haven't had much industrial growth outside of the launching pad reopening and Ben Franklin's turning into a museum. There haven't been any new warehouses built, but you drive up 3 miles of 55, there's new warehouses all over the place. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the hostility, the relationship between the city and Bridgeport. That could be worked on much better. The city doesn't advertise about Bridgeport nearly enough, and we could benefit about it greatly. Residential homes don't really bring enough revenue for the city for it to grow. Like they said, they're waiving tap-on fees, so the city's not getting revenue for that. And when it comes to property taxes, the city doesn't really get much of it anyway. Out of a $150,000 house, you're maybe paying $5,000 in property taxes. The city only sees a fraction of that most of it goes to the school district. So I think the city is definitely needs to refocus its lens on increasing growth in both the commercial and industrial sectors, and then after that, the residential can grow after that.
Okay, thank you. This one's for Ben. What prompted you to run for city office?
So, full disclosure, I live on Wildcat Court, and I didn't personally bring this to the paper originally, but a year and a half ago, I sat in here during a council meeting and brought my concerns about the traffic with the school, and it fell on deaf ears. And that was a year and a half ago, and we're hearing about it now. They want to put speed tables in a year and a half later. I worked with Chief Arnold. He came over to our house and ran the trap gun, saw for himself, and it's getting better. The speeding has been getting better, but the fact that it took a year and a half, I lost a mailbox in the process. We've caught 3 stop arm violators in the last month alone. That tells me that there was a sense of urgency a year and a half ago, and it didn't happen. So instead of continuing to complain to myself or my wife about it, I decided that I'd get involved.
Thank you. All right. The city council holds a meeting before the regular meeting. Is this a way of discussing things without public input? And shouldn't all discussions be in public session? Whoever wants to start on that one.
That meeting is open to the public, just like every city council meeting. We call it a workshop, and we talk about things that we've talked about in the middle week in between the 2 council meetings. We have meetings Tuesday night and Wednesday night and on committee meetings. And not everyone on the council is in every committee. So we have a workshop before the meetings, talk a little bit, if there's an ordinance coming up for us to vote on that night, we discuss it amongst the group as, this is coming up for vote tonight, what do you think, so on and so forth, and kind of get everybody's thoughts. Those meetings are open just the same as a regular council or committee meetings. We don't have any private meetings that's not open to the public unless we're in executive council during a council meeting.
And I would say, when the administration, when the mayor changed, one of the issues that the aldermen had was that the communication, we wanted to make sure that there was communication and we were made aware or kept abreast of everything that was happening. That was one of the ways that it was addressed, was by having a workshop prior to a city council meeting. So no one would come in and get surprised by anything. It is open, like he said, to the public. We are all allowed to ask whatever questions, whether it's on the agenda. If it's something that happened in committee, we are all allowed to ask those questions and talk about it. So there was no hidden agendas. That's really what it was for.
Anything to add, Floyd?
No.
Okay, the city got rid of the leaf bag service. Should it be brought back?
Can I answer that? Absolutely, I believe it should be brought back. Second ward, and Boyd, Benny, I know you both know, we have a lot of trees in that ward. I'd say for as small of an area it is, it probably has more trees than almost any other part of Wilmington. I know my house alone has 4 of them. And having residents rake all the leaves, bag all the leaves, and carry the bags all the way out to the front is ridiculous. We had the leaf bag for years. I believe Billy Weidling brought it into place, and it's been great ever since. And we're relying on residents to basically take that up on themselves. I know they're paying the same amount in taxes, and they're getting less services, and you never want to do that. But we also have in this ward, we have a lot of a higher age demographic. So now you're asking people in their 50s and 60s and
Watch it.
now they're the ones that have to bag it and carry these, as opposed to just rake it to the curb and the leaf bag picks it up. And now you also have people that don't care and are just going to bring it to the curb anyway. So I know of a few residents, one of them said, and she's in her 50s as well, and she said there were, just in her yard alone, she had 85 bags filled with leaves. And I think to not have the leaf vac is a disservice to those people. And yeah, I just can't really, say how important that program is. And it needs to be in place every single year.
Dennis, got any?
Probably the hardest or most, I don't even want to call it controversial, but thing that we voted on in the year plus that I've been in council. I like that thing too. It was nickel and diming the city to death every time. It wasn't a new vacuum. It was costing thousands of dollars every year to maintain, let alone the manpower that it took to run it. Now, could some of the manpower, some of the seasonal manpower be adjusted a little bit? Maybe the guys that we hire in the summer, maybe we could have them later in the summer and early in the fall. Yeah, that's not out of the question. I'm not against bringing that back, but that was a real hard decision. It's not something that's budgeted for, and it costs a lot of money to run that thing.
Okay. Fran, you got anything?
Yeah, in addition to what he has already said, I would say that the flip side of not having it was that there's issues being caused by the leaves blowing into the storm drains and the flooding situation that's caused as a result of that. I, for one, am one who keeps the drains on my street clean, and it was bad this year, so I agree with Dennis, what Dennis said too.
Floyd, say?
I would love to have the shop back, because what happens is the storm drains all get clogged up, and but it's the maintenance thing of it was the biggest factor.
That was the factor.
The cost of maintaining.
Does all this other, they have to clean all these leaves out of the storm drains and that, is that costing us about the same amount of manpower or less?
We haven't really figured that out yet.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I would think.
Oh, yeah.
To be out.
Yeah, because this was year one of not having it,
Right.
really, and
And it's a learning process.
Okay.
It's a learning process. I mean,
All right.
that was a lot.
we need to figure out some kind of program for the leaves. We can't go back to burning.
No,
We're not going back to burning
yeah,
because of the fact that there's too much allergies and
yeah,
breathing problems.
we got it.
It was a luxury that we were
But we
all
have to
used to
figure out
having.
if there's a drop-off point or take them somewhere,
Yeah,
we have to figure out something.
okay. All right, thank you. All right. Okay, this question, are you aware of the money still owed on the homes that were demolished at the entrance of South Island? If elected, how will this issue be addressed or resolved?
I'm not aware of any money being owed on
Okay.
those homes.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Not to my knowledge either. But it was done prior to
yeah,
me coming on the council, but there's nothing that comes out that's on,
so did
that's
they
in
pay
it.
for everything and
Yeah,
you're
it's all
saying it
been
was
done.
all paid for?
As far as I know.
There's nothing in our budget every month that,
It says you still-
that's a line item that says we're paying for these houses on the island.
Yeah, and the budget,
Okay, well, that was the question, you guys answered it. This one's for you, Ben. How do you feel about the infrastructure of the water sewer facilities, and would you have done anything differently than what's being done?
That's a nice one.
I didn't write it
He's just reading the message here.
I would think that, yeah, absolutely, there's some opportunity specifically with selling the water, adding the capacity to sell more water to, for instance, Joliet. Something that would highly benefit Wilmington, take very little risk, and give us a lot of money.
There's another one just for you, Ben. How do you think you work with the community foundation has benefited the city?
I think the greatest thing is the turnout. So myself and Jake Ten and Chad and Ben Stickle, it got us energized and wanting to make a difference in the community instead of just, complaining in someone's garage about how crappy the parks were. We just said, let's just try to do it ourselves, and it's been a learning process for sure. A lot of us got to know a little bit more about city government and working or not working between them and the park district, and I think it's been a huge benefit to all of us, not just myself.
Would you be in favor of paying Park District to maintain parks?
I'll take it. I was on the very first original committee when we had an agreement with Park District. I will tell you that 5+ years ago that Randy referred to, when we could not come to an agreement with the Park District, it was because during that time our budget was very, very lean. And what we were being charged from the Park District to maintain the parks was not what we could afford, and we found services that we found to be less expensive. That way, and they weren't willing to budge. Today, I agree, we need to sit down and be able to talk to and reason with and come to an agreement with the Park District, but all those years ago, that is what, at least from the city's perspective, kept us from being able to make an agreement with the Park District.
Okay. Anything to add, everyone?
I wouldn't be willing to pay their wages for them to maintain the parks because they already receive our tax dollars. I mean, they're not gonna give up their tax dollars to us, and then in turn pay them. If they wanna give us the tax dollars from the park districts that they receive, then we could probably sit down better.
Absolutely not. The city government shouldn't pay for the park district to maintain the parks. As Floyd said, and it's in the original agreement when the park district was formed, that they were there to maintain the parks. So that tax dollars is there to maintain the parks. And, well, obviously they're not doing that. It was great when Commissioner Hill brought up the agreement they have with the school board earlier today, because they mow all that for free. They had to charge this, but they have to charge the city apparently. So now the city taxpayers have to get double charged in order to have the parks maintained by the park district, both by the park district taxes, and now the city has to use their tax revenue to pay the park district. The building that the park district was owned, that they were in, was owned by the city, and they were also allowed to store their equipment for free. So if that deal was in place, why can't we have the same agreement if they do that for the school district? And it's obvious that from earlier that they said that the city has to bring about the discussions, but honestly, it's a two-way street. So the park district can definitely bring up an agreement at any time.
Okay. Anybody else?
I don't know what has happened over the last umpteen years. When I was a kid growing up, the park district maintained the parks. That all went away. I don't know why. I don't know that the city ever subsidized the park district to take care of the parks.
They lost the trailer park.
Yeah, trailer parks went away. Yeah, all that rent went away. Yeah. But the park district all the way up until, not that many years ago, still took care of the parks. And that all went away. And I mean, I again, have never been involved in talks between the city and the park district. Do we need to sit down and talk? Yes, I think, why shouldn't the park district take care of the parks instead of having an outside lawn service come in and take care of the parks? Why shouldn't it be taken care of by our own people?
Okay. Dennis, this is for you. Wilmington is always short on cash. and many regular maintenance tasks are neglected. Is there a way to fund projects that the city has missed out on?
Yeah, I don't know. Other than, we get, the city gets their money through, from taxes, and we do projects as they're allowed to be done financially. We go out and take out loans for, when we get this infrastructure project underway, we're gonna have to go out and take out loans for a substantial amount of money to be paid off over a number of years. So I don't know that we back away from projects. Have there been some projects that probably should have been taken care of 20 or 30 years ago? The infrastructure per se? That stuff, you talk to people, nobody even knows how old some of the stuff is underneath those streets. I mean, decades.
All right, this one's for you, Isaac. The council just purchased property on North Water Street for additional parking. Is downtown improvement a city responsibility, or should there be a private investment as well? Please explain.
Well, it depends on the project, of course. If it's something like a city street, then obviously the city should take care of it. But if it has to do with the building, then obviously the owner should be responsible. The city does currently have the facade improvement program, so I think that's one thing that's definitely been a big help. But with regards to the purchase of the property, I think it was an absolute mistake and a waste of money, taxpayer money. I went up, I did an overhead view of the whole area I did Nellie's parking lot, Water Street and Main Street, and all those parking spots. I counted over 285 in those areas. So we're paying $40,000, and that's just for the building. It's not including to get rid of the building for possible asbestos removal, to pave it. You're looking at way upwards of $100,000, if not $200,000. And all this is going to increase our parking space by 12 spots. So for, let's just say $40,000, you're going to increase parking by 3%. So I think that is a completely misguided purchase.
Okay. Brian, you got anything to say about that?
The money that's being used for that came from the township purchasing the old police station, and the demolition will be at no charge. And it was, as far as the facades and stuff, there is a facade improvement grant. And I do believe that, like Isaac said, if it's in the street, the city's responsible, but if we as a city are being expected to help the business owners down there, then I would expect that the business owners would put some of their own personal money into the improvement of their purchase.
The business owners came to me and told me that one business that was going to open up on Water Street couldn't get the loan. Couldn't get the loan because of the fact that there wasn't enough parking in the area. So his loan was denied to open up that business, and that was one of the factors.
And 12 more spaces will do it.
Hopefully.
Okay. All right. Okay, Fran, this is for you. One of the residents' top complaints is the size of their water bill. What drives this cost, and is there anything the city can do to bring utility users a little relief?
Okay, so we all know in the past administration, there was a water study done. For years, all of the infrastructure, like they said, is very old. We needed to have been putting money away throughout the year for capital improvement projects. That was not done. As a part of that, the whole water bill as a whole was increased, so we could be able to start putting some money away for the maintenance of the infrastructure. The plan has always been that as new users, large water users commercially came in, at any point that we would be able to give the residents some relief from their water bill, that would be the first priority.
Has that happened?
Not yet. The water meters have been a completely different, that's been huge. But throughout this process, we have found that there are some huge commercial users that has not been metered. So it is an ongoing process. We're finding things out as we're going through it, and the plan has always been to try to get relief, but until then, we have to do this in order to continue to get the capital money put aside. So, because it's not if, but when all this stuff starts breaking and busting apart, and it's almost at a critical state right now.
If you read the paper and have been keeping up with this water meter issue, especially a lot of the, on the retail end, businesses and commercial, those meters were totally set up wrong, where a person was being billed for 1 gallon when it should have been 10 gallons. So some people were getting away with hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water that they weren't paying for. Those are currently being switched out, as are several hundred throughout the city. There's 3 people out right now working on that project. One who's an outside contractor from the people that make the meters, making sure that these things are set up right to collect this data. But like I said, there's a lot of places, a lot of people that were being billed incorrectly. And in the water treatment plant, as far as water bills, I remember it being explained that we as a city, the cost of chemicals go up every year. And we as a city, we're not using enough water to keep up with the rising cost of the chemicals, so we need to bump the water rates a little bit to support and be able to pay those continued escalating costs on water treatment products.
Okay.
Ralph, if I could say something.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of the core of a lot of my issues, the water specifically, the water, is that we've had digital water meters for how many years now? And we're just now learning that we're misbilling commercial entities that use thousands of gallons, hundreds of thousands of
I
gallons.
don't think it's just commercial, I think it's residential.
It's
too.
both.
Okay,
And
so
they've
we're
also-
misbilling these people for many
Right.
years now.
Right,
And we're talking about how long-term funding has been underfunded.
right.
And to compound that problem even more, the council has agreed that we're not going to disclose how much in lost revenue we actually lost. We're just going to wash our hands with all those hundreds of thousands of gallons and move on. And I find that to be a little unacceptable. Just financially, it just makes absolutely no sense.
And another thing, if I could add too, it was also found that residents were bypassing their water meters to fill swimming pools. And that's huge. So with the new meters, and there were things that, again, we're not perfect, but, and some of us haven't been involved all the way through it, but as you learn these things, then you take steps to correct them. But that was another thing that was huge.
Okay. Do you, let's see, do you feel the city needs to start cleaning up the town and making it look more presentable? If so, how?
I think that's a continuous thing with our work crew. Our work crew is always trying to maintain the streets and different things, but they also got to take care of main breaking or something breaking down. They're always in the process. Right now, everything looks bad because of the snow melt. And yeah, even with all the leaves, in the streets, and it looks bad. But I mean, everybody's starting to get the spring fever and getting out planting flowers.
Okay. What's your plan to move the stone that's on the South Island?
That's on hold because the plan was to put that stone due to the drownings, the plan was to put the stone into the current at the dam, for the undercurrent, and got stopped at the state level. And I'll tell you right now, one of my biggest issues, along with everybody else in this room, we have had to make an exclusionary zone because of the drownings at the dam. Because irregardless of what we were doing, people were not paying attention. They were still going in the river. There were still drownings every year. That was our short-term, our decision to try to help alleviate that problem. At every turn, irregardless of the administration, irregardless of whether it was a repair or try to fix it completely, we have run into, at the state level, roadblocks at every turn. And you guys will see in an upcoming article in the paper, that's probably one of my pet peeves. Yorkville got a beautiful dam paid for by the state. Why can't Wilmington get exactly the same thing? And we have, like the Park District explained, it's a liability. You know, we're told we can't enforce things. We're told by this department we can't enforce it, and if we do, that makes us liable. We have been told a lot of things from a lot of different departments, but at the end of the day, there's still drownings. So that was made as that decision to put the rock in there and to make an exclusionary zone was strictly to save lives.
That stone was taken, as everybody probably knows, from the railroad bridge. It was free, didn't cost us a dime. The mayor was able to talk to the construction companies. They trucked it down there for nothing. So is it an eyesore? Yes, but it's sitting there and it didn't cost us a dime. If we're not able to get that stuff into backfill the dam, the Army Corps of Engineers is what's holding everything up. And the mayor has been in contact with state senators, lawmakers, trying to get this justified, and it's politics. He also wants to get the dam, the mayor also has long-term plans that he would like to put, for those of us that have been here for a long time and can remember how free-flowing the mill race was, and when Bobby Thomas and the Thomas family lived on the South Island, and the boat ramp on the South Island, and there was motorboats going up and down, speedboats going up and down the mill race when we were kids. Ideally, that's what we'd like to get back to where the mill race is part of our town, and you can boat up and down the mill race. The mayor currently is talking of putting a dock in back behind downtown, where some of these canoe clubs that come into town, and they come from the state park, they can canoe right into the downtown area. They can canoe to this dock area, or they can disembark in the city parking lot. They can go to Hayden's and have lunch. They can spend their day downtown after their canoe ride. There's a lot of recreational things that we would like to do with the river and the mill race, and a lot of it, is a lot of money, and there's a lot of litigation in trying to fix things with the
So
state.
is it true the state doesn't want the dam? They want it
That's
out?
in talking to the mayor, because I have never talked it. No, we don't own it. You own it. No, we don't own it. You own it. No, we don't own it. You own it. They're just.
The plan at one point was for them they were coming in and had done a study and was for them to take over. Just about the time that transaction was supposed to take place, there was a drowning. At that point, everybody backed away and put their hands up. So we're stuck.
So politics as usual.
Yep.
Okay, explain why you approved raises for city officials this past year.
Well, some of the non-bargaining, the bargaining units, it's in their contract to get those raises. The non-bargaining units, or non-bargaining employees, had gone many years through the lean times with no raises. We felt it was necessary to get them up, at least give them a cost of living increase for some of them. Others had then gone under contract, so that's why they got them.
And also the surrounding communities, we looked at all their communities and saw that where they were making versus our employees. Not, so that's where the raises came in at, based on what the surrounding communities were getting their workers.
Anybody else want to comment?
You get, as Fran and Floyd just said, we just talked about it last week. There's the woman who is our police chief's assistant. we looked at what she is making as opposed to a woman in the same position in Braidwood. That woman was making $5,000-$6,000 a year more than this person. And she's been with us for several years.
Okay. All right. Well, we got a couple more. We wanted to get this done around 8 o'clock.
Yes.
What can you uniquely add as a member of the city council?
There you go.
I got you. Okay.
As a member of the city council, if I add the 30 years that I've been in this town as a small town community, a small town atmosphere, that's what I hope to continue and bring. I'm from the south side of Chicago originally. And believe me, we don't want this town to become the south side of Chicago. So, you know, I've loved the small town atmosphere, being out in the country.
All right. Right.
As far as uniqueness, the job that I currently have is, I bring, I wouldn't say the financial portion of it, but at least the bidding process, because I'm a buyer, and learning how, or applying how some of that knowledge would work with the city.
Ben?
So my day job, I'm a project manager for IT projects. So I do both the contract negotiations, buying, as well as making sure stuff comes in on time and on budget. And I think that's exactly what we're hearing we need a lot more of in the city, is not only fixing the problems today, but creating a plan that can propel us for the next 5, 10, 15 years. I think I could help with that.
Okay. Ben?
Again, having grown up in this town, I think we all of us that have done that, and even that haven't, want to continue to have the small town atmosphere. This town is fantastic as far as its volunteerism, whether it be sports or clubs or whatever. There's not a lot of communities around like Wilmington that back the kids programs like Wilmington does. It's kind of unique. And anything that we can do, again, I'm going to say none of us are going to sit up here and say that we're going to not try to do a great job for the people of Wilmington and try to, use common sense and steer the city in the right direction.
Okay. Isaac?
I kind of touched on it earlier. It's just based on my background, my college background with economics. It has a lot to do with the city and how to run a city, and making sure that taxpayer dollars are spent correctly. Outside of that, I would say just because I know a lot of the history of the events that have taken place in city politics and park district politics for years. I mean, I was born and my dad was a park district committeeman. There's only 4 years of my life he wasn't in politics, so I've always been kind of a sideliner and always took in information and used it as a background on how I can make the city better as well.
Okay. All right, guys. That's it. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for running.
Thank you.
All right.